It's got to be Mackay. McKay? I don't know. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you. Jack says, what's up, brother? New to the channel lately, but it's awesome work. Thanks and keep it up. Thank you, Jack. It's a great name, Jack Allen. Thoughts on Dan Pena saying Bitcoin will go to zero and he knows who Satoshi is? Yeah, that's the guy who yells a lot, hey? He's kind of he's one of those people that has made a career off of like viral clips like that. He's a psychopath. You ever watched like 10 minutes of that guy talk? He does raise some really good points. He's like one of those people who motivates people to get their shit together and to work. But to say that you know who owns or who Satoshi is like clinically insane. Like in a normal world, he would be put in a mental institution, right? He doesn't know. There's no way that he knows. And so, because you have to think through it a little bit further. Let's say that he does know, right? Just humor me here for a second. And this is why I don't worry about Dan Pena or whoever claims that they know who Satoshi is and that it's going to go to zero. This is why it's completely irrelevant, because I want you to think about this. Let's say that Dan did know who Satoshi was. And let's say think about the worst person on the planet that you would want to be Satoshi. Mine would probably be Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau, Hitler, and then Jamie Dimon. If any of those three people were Satoshi, it has no impact on where we are now. Yes, they have 900,000 coins. Yes, they're very wealthy. But that doesn't change anything. It's not like they can have any sort of influence over the network. That's like 1% of the Bitcoin. Right? And if you actually look at how fair Bitcoin was from day one, you compare it to like an altcoin where Ethereum, where 50%, or I think it was maybe 60% of the Ethereum tokens were pre-mined. So before Ethereum even started, they gave 50% of their 60% of the supply to their friends and family and whoever worked on the project. And that's still who holds the majority of influence in that network. And because it's a proof of stake network versus Bitcoin, which is a proof of work network, those coins, that influence, that's how they make changes to Ethereum. Whoever has the most coins can make the changes. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's completely different. It uses proof of work and a consensus mechanism, which means that it's the nodes around the world who basically vote on which way to go with the direction of Bitcoin. So it's not based on who owns how many Bitcoin. It's based on the nodes. It's much more fair. It's much more decentralized. But so you think that through and you say, okay, well, from day one, nobody in Bitcoin was given any coins. The only, I think it was the Genesis block. And I was listening to Marty talk about this the other day. But the Genesis block itself, the first block that was mined, that would be the only like question mark around whether Satoshi earned his Bitcoin or if he gave it to himself, because at that time he was the only person running Bitcoin. He was the only person mining Bitcoin, Satoshi. But the Genesis block, that's the only block that's unspendable. So even at that point, it was completely fair from day one. So what I'm trying to say here is that it does not matter who Satoshi is. It doesn't. It has no impact on anything. They can't make any changes to the network. Yes, they have a shitload of wealth now, obviously, 1%. But I really think that those keys have been burned. If Bitcoin is what I think it is and what a lot of people do, I think that those keys have been burned. So that's just kind of my comment on it. Yeah, and I mean, this is a great point from the Zapstream, and this is something that I just learned recently, actually. But it's Dekeo says it's also not just running a node, but actually using that node for transacting. If you just have a node sitting on a shelf and you use someone else's node for broadcasting transactions, your node doesn't make any difference. Yeah, and if you have a Bitcoin node and you're exactly not sending any Bitcoin, your influence in the network is much lower than somebody who is running a node and has a bunch of volume on that. So it's not like every node has equal vote in it. So you have to still have to be fairly active with it in order for it to be influential. But at the same time, it's a way better version of it than proof of stake. Proof of stake is it just oozes corruption.